Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of the Dazzle podcast. This is going out on social media channels. I want to kind of let everyone get a bit of a behind the scenes of the comic I'm doing, ideas where they came from, what the story is going to be about, different things like that. And I'm going to be doing an episode at least once a month for Patreon people. So if you like what you hear or like what you see on this podcast or video podcast or whatever we're calling it these days, then when I do the launch, probably in early January, you can join up and be a Patreon member, and you can get more of these. Sometimes we'll even take each completed issue and kind of go through it and, kind of give you like, this is what happened, or, this scene got changed to this, or here's this great idea that, the illustrator said, nope, we can't do that, what have you. So I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague and podcaster extraordinaire, Sasha Paul.
Thank you, Andrew. Hi, welcome everyone. It's I'm honored to be here, and it's been a while, man.
I know. That's why when I was like, "Hey, buddy, can we do a podcast? Because I have this comic," and you probably thought, "What?
Comic?" Andrew, we didn't see us for like a year, and you do comic?
Yeah, well, yes, I will be. I mean, I'm in the process of doing a comic. That's for sure. Yeah, as a little reference to Monty Python, now for something completely different, because this is something very completely different for me. I don't think you had it down that Andrew would probably do a comic someday.
Not really. I know you're big into movies and into music and stuff like this, but comics, I didn't know.
Well, I mean, and I'm not really. So we'll get to that too, because one thing I do love is irony, and I find it very ironic that I'm like, I don't read comics, but I'm doing a comic. Would you like to see it?
Interesting. So, let's talk about comic.
Yeah. Well, so the short end, so people don't have to listen for 47 minutes for the first podcast. The short version is, I had an idea in my head for about 25, 30 years to do this, let's say, much simpler story than I'm doing now.
Okay.
And it would pop into my head every about once a year or so. I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. Too bad it's never going to happen. And in the last, 12, 13, 14 months, I was like, And in January, I made a really important decision, and that was and kind of a crazy decision, because I'm not the what do you call that? The New Year's resolution kind of guy.
Okay.
Because I never, like, all that's like, there's 6 or 7 and it's all bullshit. Like nothing ever happens. So I said, how about I just say this? I'm gonna act like this year is the last year I'm gonna be alive on this planet.
Ooh. Okay.
So it's like get busy doing something, because this could be it. And the way the world's going, it's like, who knows?
Who knows? Come on. Let's be optimistic.
Yeah.
But I get you.
And that's and so I said, okay, I'm gonna take this idea and go with it and see what happens.
So what's the idea, story? You said you were thinking about it for so many years.
Yeah.
So how did Dazzle come about?
Well, I of course I can't draw, as you might not know, actually, but I think if I went to a kindergarten, like, everyone in the kindergarten would be drawing better than me. So I have a friend of mine who lives right across the border in Croatia, and I thought, okay, well, let's start with, like, hey, can he give me some of these characters I had in my head, and then we'll go from there. Because if he can't do it or doesn't want to do it, then then I'm back to, well, it was a nice idea.
Yeah.
It's like on to something else in my life. And I gave him just some ideas for my lead character, Annabelle, who's, yes, you're probably wearing on your t-shirt. I just said, well, I want someone who looks different. I want someone who's got this Day of the Dead kind of look to them. And I went out on Pinterest and was like, yep, I need someone with a skeleton outfit, and I need a big sombrero, and I want some sugar skulls on it. And I just hodgepodge of a bunch of stuff. Like, here you go. Can you create this character I've had in my head kind of on and off?
Pieces.
For the last 25 years. And like 3 weeks later, He sent me these drawings back, and I really was like, holy shit. I cannot believe. Then I was like, I have to do it. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm ever going to have a whole issue. I don't know anything, but like, I'm going for it.
But some magic started.
It was. It was truly a magical moment when I thought, okay, this was usually you're like, oh, if it looks kind of close to what I'm hoping for, but this was like, oh, this is way better. And then when I gave him about four other characters, and it was all the same thing, like, okay, this is like we're on like Donkey Kong now,
Nice. Okay, but is it? The story is fantasy.
So okay,
magic. What?
Yeah. It sounds like it. So here's what it is. It's a fantasy. It's also a love story. And it's a period piece, although I kind of say it's like a period pieces, plural, because it takes place over the course of many, many years, about 1,000 years.
Okay.
So we're in different historical places. So it's like, here's the period piece of this issue as this period piece, and this, 3 issues later, we're over here and we have that period piece. And although it wasn't my master plan when I started out with, the idea came to me of just have real places, because I travel a lot, and I want to have real places in the story. I want to have real peoples or cultures or whatever. So, sorry, I'm not making up fake countries in Africa and Europe and all that stuff. Just annoys the absolute crap out of me. And let's use real history or real historical things that happen and tie them in with the story. For instance, the main antagonist of the story has been around for about 1,000 years. And well, how would he have made his money? How would he made his life or whatever? Well, the Silk Road was really important, was lucrative for a lot of people, and it cuts through a lot of the countries I'm very interested in. So that's perfect. So let's do that. And if you're talking about Silk Road in Central Asia, well, at some point you can have something related to Tamerlane or Genghis Khan, or God knows, I love Romania. So it's like, well, we could, if we don't show, we could at least reference it, like, yeah, he knows who Vlad the Impaler was. Because when if people are living through hundreds of years, why can't we have like real people and actual things that happen rather than make everything up? So it's a fantasy, but it's a fantasy that's like set on Earth with people, I think, who are real enough. There's just some magical qualities to them.
Okay.
But the history and the places are all real because, I like to travel. And it's like I go to places and...
I was thinking when you were explaining it, I was like, but that's so you.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know Andrew, maybe there are some people that don't know you. That are tuning in. Andrew, you have a travel company. You traveled for ages.
Ages, yes. Not as long as some of my characters in the comic, but at some point...
Not on the Silk Road at that time.
I might be like, this tour was so difficult, I think I've been traveling for 300 years on the Silk Road. But yeah, you go to... And places give you inspiration because they're real. Yeah. And when you're at a place, then you look at it and be like, ooh, what an amazing scene you could have if I'm here, but that this is here and these characters are here.
Perfect.
And it's so much more for me, like I could relate to that more. And I just feel like there's so many interesting things in the real world. Why should we leave them all out and just say, well, we'll put in outer space or this other planet that's kind of like Earth, and then we'll just make everything up from scratch? It's like, why do that?
Well, then Dazzle is also kind of educational comic in a way.
Perhaps. I think down the road there's a nice educational book. So people like, here's the fictional world of Dazzle that's based on the real world, but here's all the real world stuff that goes into it.
Limited edition.
Yeah, limited edition, and buddy, you'll get one of those.
Oh, nice.
And one of the for instance, when I talk about real people, I have a character that I was gonna. Okay, here's a character. He was a pilot, and now he's one of the human cannonball folks in the circus. And I was telling my illustrator in Istanbul about it, and he said, "Oh, do you know the first black pilot in the history of the world was an Afro-Turk, and he flew in the First World War for the Ottoman Empire." Ooh. And I was like, "Well, guess what? That character that I've already got a name for and already started working on, he's not gonna be that guy, but he's gonna be an Afro-Turk. Why not? Because if you're in Turkey and you're reading this, you're like, oh, hey, that sounds like that guy. Nice. Why not? Because that person actually existed." listed. So it's good to do a little bit of homework on this stuff, and I think you can be creative and use like real world things together. But as you mentioned, Sancho, I am a film guy, a big time film guy. And so when I think of all this stuff in my head,
You see scenes?
I see scenes. And what I love, because you got the radio voice, I hear that trailer coming through for the comics. So can I have you read everyone what the description is? Because this is like, it's a love story, it's a this, it's a that, but I have a nice, concise kind of summary of what things are, and I could have you read that here. So bear with this when we get this up on the
Okay.
So you get your radio voice.
Okay. Dazzle is a non-linear story set in a circus that is fueled by magic. A blend of fantasy, action, and romance that is set in real locations around the globe during a myriad periods in history. While an ensemble piece with nearly a dozen prominent characters, the spotlight shines brightest on a young orphan, Annabelle, as she searches for her identity and family amongst a group of beguiling, colorful, and strangely beautiful characters. She will need to find her true self under a big top filled with outcasts, dreamers, assassins, charlatans, monsters, and angels. When the circus lights dim, the real magic begins. This is the world of Dazzle.
Wow. Okay. It's a good thing I paid you a lot of money for this podcast.